Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another GTA Online video. My name is Saintsfan, and today I have one of the coolest DLC concepts that I think I've ever taken a look at. This hypothetical DLC adds content to the game that you would think would be in a GTA Online game. Like, we're getting back to the basics with this DLC, and I think a lot of people would like that. As always, with these DLC concepts, if you guys like this idea and want to see it implemented into GTA Online, then like the video, share it with Rockstar, share it with your friends. You can actually now send it to them on the Rockstar feedback GTA Online section on their website. I'll leave links to all that in the description. I will also leave a link to the guy who sort of created this. His name is Verbal Soz on GTA forums. I'll leave a link to the full DLC concept because we're not going to be taking a look at everything, just sort of the big points. So the name of this DLC concept is the Midnight Run, which is a really awesome name for a DLC as well. So like right off the bat, we're good. And the little backstory that he goes into, now would Rockstar do this? Who really knows? But the backstory that he gave was that Simeon is in debt to some serious Russian mobster who wants a payment from Simeon's showroom. And I guess he says this was because Simeon tried to scam the Russians. So now he is asking you for help in collecting certain vehicles to pay off this debt. And the majority of this concept does take a lot of ideas from various car movies like Gone in 60 Seconds or like Fast and Furious, which is right up Rockstar's alley. Rockstar have done that multiple times. And as always with a new big DLC, this would add some new properties. Now they could do something cool like in the Fast and the Furious movies, like in this scene in particular, where you have these giant facility hangar things with a bunch of cars. I wish one day we can get a garage like that so I can see like 50 cars in one garage. I don't know if there's like a limit, a hardware limit on why we haven't received anything like that. But if they did something like this, each one of those blue shelf looking things, they could have one of those blue dots by it, and you just walk into the blue dot to pick whatever car you want to drive out. Now, these new properties or garages, whatever you want to call them, there's a couple of issues. One, like where would they go, especially if it's this size? There's not really many places on the map, if any, that they could put this. So odds are they'd have to go underground, but it's fine. I don't think anyone really cares. Make it like the facility, add some places, or they could tie it in with other properties like under the actual hangars we own, or under the warehouse, the import and export warehouse that we own. They could make it cost the same as a new property, so like $3, $4, $5 million plus, but it'll just be an extension to those places. Another thing he mentioned was a boat garage added to somewhere, one of the places up north, maybe the Alamo Sea, or maybe just on the coast somewhere up there, and then a place also down in the city. But as for how this DLC would hypothetically work, there would be sort of a board in your new property, kind of like the Gone in 60 Seconds board, and it would have, you know, some import and export stuff. And on this board, you could choose what cars you want to steal. So running through the missions, and this is actually really, really cool. He lists 10. We're going to be looking just at a couple here. One, the Dominator Classic. We kind of already have Eleanor in the game already, so maybe they just use that vehicle and then add it to this DLC for this mission. But this car is being held by the police in the Del Perro precinct. He says the only way to get it is to drive through the HQ. There are 4 of them, so you have to bring all of them to your hub, to your property, so Simeon can choose which one that he wants. And then he says driving this thing through roadblocks, choppers, police coming after you would be a lot of fun, and I agree. The next mission would be involving the Jester Classic or some other similar cars like that. This one is the Midnight Underground mission. He says you have to beat the street racers during their meetup in the vineyard to steal these cars, race them through the canyon, kind of like some old Need for Speed games. And a new upgrade is actually given to you by How, which is a nitrous upgrade, which would be awesome in cars. And then you have to deliver it to the hub. So basically you just have to race NPCs and you get the car. Now, where the boat garage and all that comes into play is with this third mission. This one is the wet mission. These new aquatic vehicles are owned by the Lost MC. So you have to storm their base at the fish yard, and you bring these back to your boat garage. And some of the new vehicles are the hoverboat, which is something I think a lot of us kind of want. They have some sort of speed looking boats and some underwater submersible style boats, he says, with stealth mode. The fourth mission, Slice and Dice. Some of the, and I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, the Kangpai, the South Korean gang that's in Los Santos. They are experimenting with some new armored vehicles. And I mean, you can just see this picture alone is goofy, but that's basically what this vehicle that you're stealing would be. And you have to battle through them. And this thing's equipped with, you know, the obvious homing missiles. It's got a cloak ability, which may be too overpowered adding it to a vehicle like this, and an EMP, which we're going to touch on in a second. That mission kind of sounds like a lot of fun. And then obviously this DLC has to involve some supercars, some really, really nice cars. And one of the other missions he mentions is the Fresh Prince mission. There's a prince from Dubai who has moved into Los Santos, and they're trying to live a lavish life. You have to find their houses where they're at using the Trackify app. Once you're there, you have to battle through their guards to steal all of their nice vehicles. And like I mentioned, there's a couple of other missions that he mentions, but these new missions would be the main gameplay part of this DLC. At least that's how you would be making money. And I think this is a pretty good way to make an Import and Export Part 2 instead of just literally copying the gameplay from Import and Export 1 and then just adding it with new vehicles in a Part 2. This sort of gives you some variety while still remaining kind of a similar vibe. And he does mention some other missions, including some, you know, sport classic cars, some old school supercars. He even mentioned some Mark II stuff. So again, like there'd be a lot of content, a lot of different types of vehicles in this DLC. Drip feed would be super long. Now, while that may be the main like gameplay aspect or money making aspect of this DLC, this second part of the DLC concept is kind of what won me over. This is kind of what makes this so cool. So with this Midnight Run DLC concept, not only would they add all the new missions and properties in those vehicles, but they would add 2 new race modes. One would be a hot pursuit mode, which is basically like a cops and crooks. We kind of have this in the game, but I think a lot of us would want it to be done better. He says you're basically taking like the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit game and making that into a mode, like an actual race mode, not an adversary mode. And it's 5 players on each team. So you have 5 cops, 5 racers. The racers are trying to get from point A to point B, and they are equipped with EMP mines like we have on some of the arena vehicles. And they're also equipped with spikes like in the JB700. And the cops, they are equipped with the same sort of stuff, but they can call in a helicopter backup to their phone to locate you or the racers on the map. And they also have an EMP launcher mounted to their headlights, kind of like how homing launchers work, but these are just EMP grenades or launchers. And that would actually be really fun, really cool. This would definitely be an opportunity for Rockstar to add some law enforcement vehicles, like a speed enforcement vehicle, certain vehicles that we could use as the cops in this race. And if they don't want us to ever get or become a cop in a DLC, at least give us some awesome cop cars like that, right? Like a super or a sport cop car to compete in these races. But the other race mode, it's kind of multiple ones that this DLC would add, is sort of based off of what they did with the arena vehicles. With the arena vehicles, you have 3 different varieties. And that's what would be happening here. In this DLC concept, there would be 3 different tiers at, let's say, Benny's that you could bring some new cars into. And this fits the theme. You would take, let's say, a Sultan, and you bring it to Benny's. Instead of upgrading it just, you know, to the regular style that it is now, you have 3 options: a drift style, a drag style or a race style. Or maybe you don't bring it to Benny's, maybe you just buy it off of the website like they did with the Arena War. But basically, you have 3 different styles of vehicles. You have a drift style, a drag race style, and just a street race style. They don't need to really add new cars to the game, just have the ones we have now, but make these different versions of them, like a drift Sultan, a drag Sultan, and a street race Sultan, or a Kuruma, or the Jester Classic, or the LG Retro Custom. Take some of these cars that we have and introduce some new versions. The customization would be endless, especially if they have the same amount that the arena vehicles had. They could have some special, unique features for, let's say, the drag one, or the drift one drifts faster. The street race has some, I don't know, something. So odds are people would buy multiple of these vehicles, so it would make Rockstar a lot of money. And that's where that big garage comes into play. But once you have these vehicles, these different types, you would be able to use them in this new race mode. There would be a drag race mode, so you could only use these drag vehicles. There would be a drift mode. You could use the drift vehicles, and there'd be a race mode, like a street race mode, where you could use the street vehicles. And this could be a perfect opportunity to allow a cross between super and sport cars, and even sport classic cars if you want. They could add these drift cars or drag cars to the game, and they could have them be on the same performance level as all the other drift and drag cars. Like, let's say they added the Kuruma as a drag car, and let's say they added a supercar. I don't know, I'm gonna say the Adder because it's the first one that comes to my mind, as a drag car. While yes, normally the Adder smokes the Kuruma, the drag versions are similar. So that right there is like such an awesome idea, and it's using a system that's already in place. And then one of the final things someone mentioned was that free mode events could be street races now. Like every 15, 20, 25 minutes, there could be a street race, like an impromptu race that people can join. And yeah, of course, it's not going to be super balanced, but that's the fun of it, because you're going against other players. One, you're going against NPCs, probably against griefers, so like you don't know what's going to happen. And I think a lot more people would enjoy a racing free mode event versus all the ones we have at the moment. So I know this has kind of been a long video, but that is this amazing, awesome DLC concept. Again, leave a like, drop the video a like, share it with people if you want to see this happen in GTA Online. I know we've all gone back and forth on a Arena Wars 2 DLC, or a Naval DLC, or a Cop DLC. And while I would like some of those, I would not be upset if we got something like I've mentioned in this video. Just take half of the things I mentioned, and that would be an awesome DLC. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you all for watching this pretty long video. That's gonna do it for me. So as always, I will see you guys in the next one.